Steve Famigletti, Blind Services Coordinator at New England Assistive Technologies, an Oak Hill Center, will be interviewing 5 clients of BESB on the impact of mentoring in their lives. Steve offers a unique perspective as the project interviewer. He has walked the same path as those with whom he will be speaking. Steve has been legally blind his whole life due to premature birth. Our first interview in the Bureau of Education Services for the Blind Mentor Series is with Bill DeMayo. He is the Director of New Britain Parks and Recreation. Bill has been legally blind for some time, as he has a degenerative eye disease.
How long have you been employed by this employer?
I work for the City of New Britain. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director and Community Services Director, and I've been here for 31 years, completed in August. I started as a recreation superintendent and was fortunate enough to be acting director and then director, and then under the new reorganization by Mayor Aaron Stewart, I was able to become the Parks and Recreation and Community Services Director.
Exciting.
It has been.
What are your current responsibilities here?
It's pretty varied, and with this new reorganization, I'm responsible for 10 divisions. So if I can remember them all, it'll be parks, recreation, golf, cemeteries, youth services, persons with disabilities, veterans affairs, fair housing, animal welfare, and senior citizen center.
Wow, that's a lot of hats.
It is. It's really interesting. The good thing is I've surrounded myself with good people, and I have great staff that work for us. We have probably about 70 full-time people and 468 part-timers.
Wow. What kind of adaptive technology do you use to get your work done here on a daily basis?
For software on my computer, I have JAWS and Magic. That's the software program that talks and magnifies. Although the magnifying part doesn't help me as much anymore, but the reversal of black and white inverted colors help me. Contrast helps me a great deal. I also use OpenBook with Pro Camera. And then what's recently has been one of the biggest helps to me is the iPhone with the accessibility features that talk to you and do everything. So I feel like I have a computer on my hip at all times, and I'm able to operate practically my whole office and computer system through the iPhone, which has been very, very helpful.
Wow, so you're using Siri on your iPhone for dictation and then VoiceOver for reading back to you?
Exactly. Yeah, I get all my emails and all my letters. I also bought that software program that takes a picture of a letter and reads the letter to you.
For your phone?
Yes.
The KNFB reader?
Yes. Yep.
That's a phenomenal app.
Yeah, just fabulous. So technology has helped the blind community, in my opinion, tremendously.
Right, that's definitely true. Can you tell us a little bit about your vision and how it's changed over the years?
Yep. I have retinitis pigmentosa, atypical. So it's a slow blinding disease, as many know. It kicked in hard when I was 30 years old, and I'm 56 years old now. I had to give up my driver's license at 30. So each year it gets worse and worse. I have some functional vision right now, and it all depends. It's based on the environment. So indoors, I can kind of see better than outdoors. When it's bright sunlight, I'm totally in whiteout conditions. So it all depends on the environment, nighttime, daytime, cloudiness. I love cloudy days. People say, oh, it's cloudy again. I actually love a cloudy day.
What are some of the challenges that you face on your job?
The biggest challenge is being organized and being able to plan rides. I think, when you lose your independence with the driver's license, you have to plan every single meeting, getting to work, getting home from work, going to a meeting, walking to a meeting, taking a bus to a meeting, taking, taxi cabs, whatever you have to do, you have to plan ahead all the time. You're less spontaneous, I think, than the average worker. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges. So it forces me to be very, very efficient with my time and plan accordingly.
What would you say some of your strengths are?
I have good interpersonal skills. I'm a pretty strong leader, and I have a good, my parents brought me up with good morals and scruples, so I'm a very honest kind of guy with the highest level of integrity. I can get along with people. I can try to find compromises in government to try to make both sides happy. And I'm a very, very passionate person. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I believe in Parks and Recreation, and I love helping people. I work 24/7, and I'm always diving into things and reading. I read a motivational book almost every 2 weeks. I try to make myself as prepared and on top of my game as I possibly can. And I also have been blessed with a fabulous memory, so I'm able to memorize quite a few pages of speeches and reports and budgets. So when I speak at meetings and town council meetings, etc., I can. I've been fortunate. God has blessed me with a good memory, so I can kind of exploit that a little bit, and it helps me out in my job.
How did you actually get involved in this line of work?
My dad was a plumbing and heating contractor. Me and my brother were plumbers since we were like 7 or 8 years old, and but I was lucky enough to do well in school, in high school, and you know, my dad said, you know, you can always be a plumber, but you probably should take advantage of your brains and go to college. So I went to my guidance counselor and I took one of those tests of your career choice, and lo and behold, it came out Parks and Recreation Director. I did a little research, found out that Springfield College was noted all over the country out of Massachusetts, so I applied to one college and lucky enough to get in, and worked hard at it, and ended up getting a degree in Parks and Recreation, and the rest is kind of history. I was fortunate enough to do an internship, a full year's internship in Rocky Hill Parks and Recreation, and they kept me on after the year and made me assistant director. I stayed there only a year and a half, and was fortunate enough to get a recreation supervisor's job at Newington Parks and Recreation, and I stayed there for 3 years, and they recruited me here to New Britain Parks and Recreation, and was able to start as a superintendent of recreation. And then my boss left and ended up getting the director's job. So it was really it's kind of a nice story. And again, just passionate about helping people, loving a community, and providing services, making people happy.
That's wonderful. Throughout this history that you're telling us about, who inspired you? Would you say that it was your uncle and your father?
Yeah, I would say my parents were always a strong inspiration with me. You know, Besby kind of came into my life after I was 30, and around that time, around the giving up the driver's license time. And the mentoring, they didn't have a formal mentoring program, but I can tell you that the people at Besby, either my counselor or my computer technology instructor and my O&M orientation and mobility instructor, all of those people acted as mentors to me because I didn't really know anybody in the blind community. I didn't know anything about what it was going to be like to be blind. I didn't know any of that stuff, so I would quiz them all the time about their other clients and what are other people doing, because I always wanted to benchmark myself. And Besby was just fabulous to me. I mean, without Besby, I could not have been working, and I could not know about all this stuff. They opened the doors for me to learn about blindness, and then learn how to cope with blindness, and learn how to use technology with blindness. And ADAPT for me stands for, the letters stand for 5 different things. The A for ADAPT stands for adjust. When you're blind, you need to learn to adjust at all times. Your ride isn't here, didn't come to get you to work. What's the adjustment? What can I do? Do I call Uber? Do I call a taxi cab? Do I call a friend? I need plan B, plan C, plan D all the time. So you have to adjust when you're blind all the time, as you probably know.
I do.
The D stands for determination. I mean, you have to be so determined to be successful. I always wanted to be the best Parks and Recreation director in the country. That was my goal, and I was determined to do it, and I didn't want blindness to get in the way. So for my first 53 years of my life, I pretended I wasn't blind, and I tried to fake people out. That's a difficult thing. That's a head game for yourself. But when it started to get unsafe, it was a little bit dangerous. So we need to, adapt there. So it's adjust, it's determination. The next A stands for adventure. Everything that I do is an adventure. I try to challenge myself to say, okay, I'm going to go to Oregon and go to a blind adventure camp by myself with my dog, my guide dog. I'm going to take on this role at the meeting. I'm going to lead this group to do something. So everything I do is an adventure, and I look at it that way, and I can kind of conquer it in that respect. The P stands for persistence. You're not always right the first time, and you can't get it always the first time, and sometimes you get frustrated, but you have to be persistent. And as you know, when you're blind, you have to keep working at it until you can accomplish it. It's computer software, it's the new technology, it's phones, whatever it is. It's foreign at first, but you have to be persistent. And then last T stands for trust the dog, trust God, trust myself. And I trust those three things, and it seems to get me to where I need to be. And that's my short story of what ADAPT stands for, and it kind of summarizes my lifestyle and my positive attitude and my positive thinking.
What advice would you give to a parent of a child who is visually impaired or blind?
I would say the positive attitude. Everyone says no to people with disabilities. It seems like that's the first answer, and then you have to fight for what you need. And I think parents have to be the biggest advocate for their kids. So that's important. You have to get involved, you have to educate yourself and know what's available to you. You can be anything you want in this world. You just can't accept no for an answer.
And I think that's good advice. So what would you say to employers that are thinking about hiring people, not only hiring people, but people who may have a disability, a visual impairment, or blindness?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you I've been on both sides of it. I hire people with disabilities, and I advocate for them, of course. So I guess just encourage people to go after their dreams and go after them hard. You have to go after them. You can't be mediocre, and you can't be poor at it. You got to be excellent at it. So, and I think that's good for even able-bodied people. I think you have to be the best you can be at what you choose to do. I think that's important.
So what would you say to an employer that's thinking about hiring somebody that has a disability?
Keep an open mind. Be honest with them. I train my staff all the time and say, what can I do to help you be successful in this job? That's as simple as it gets. People, if they ever saw you and I using JAWS or using our computer without being able to see, I think they would just, they flip out sometimes. They go, holy smokes, I can't believe someone can use a computer as fast as they can without seeing. And it's just, that's one of the things that if you're not exposed to it, you're not open to it, then you may not know. And so hopefully through this video, employers out there will have an open mind and say, you know what, maybe I should give a person a shot. And here's let me give you some other statistics. When a person with a disability, when they're employed, statistically in the country, take less sick time, they take less vacation, and they're to work earlier and they leave later. And what's the reason for that? They want to prove to all their able-bodied peers that they're just as good or better than them. And sometimes we have to work harder, sometimes we have to work longer. I'm willing to do that, you're willing to do that, people with disabilities are willing to do that. Why not take a person and hire a person with a disability and give them a shot and let them prove to everyone, prove to the world that they can do the job?
That's right. I agree.
Bill continues to provide leadership in the town of New Britain and the blind community. He is a testament to motivation, determination, and perseverance. We are grateful for the opportunity to share his positive message.